Okay, welcome back, dear viewers. It's a week late, but here it is, my review deep dive into Kelvin Green's Strict Time Records Must Be Kept. Yeah, I ran this at VengerCon. It was a lot of fun. The party survived, though one guy was horribly disfigured by the end of the session. His character, not him. But before we get into this, if you're new to my channel, this is what I do. I play games. I record myself playing those games, and then I talk about them. I got nothing against the flip-through review, but I really feel like you don't get much out of it. I think a deep dive from someone who's actually used the module or the product is much more helpful, because this hobby can get expensive, and there's a lot out there. Sometimes a well-produced thing ends up being pretty mediocre or not good, and you dropped like $50-$60 on it, like, I don't know, a pending update to the world's most popular role-playing game, or there might be some small publisher who's just got like a $3, $4, $5 product that's just awesome, and you'll get hours of gameplay out of it. And that's what I kind of want to highlight here. So if this sounds interesting to you, please hit like and subscribe, bell icon, yada yada yada. So anyway, let's get started. Strict Time Records Must Be Kept. Yeah, Kelvin Green, he's an artist and a writer for Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I'm a big fan of him. He's funny. He's got like this sense of humor that's just right up my alley. He seems to understand that horror is not just something that makes you cringe and scream, but also like grab the popcorn and just sort of enjoy the ride. And his art and his writing style really emphasize that. So, and you can get this still. Physical copies are available at the Lamentation web store, €25. I think there's a value added tax if you get it from the European store added in there. But you can get the PDF for just under $10 at drive-thru. So, okay, so what this module is that the PCs are invited to a dinner with a bunch of other wealthy aristocrats of the region. This doctor who invited them has a mansion high up on a mountain, miles away from any civilization, any help, any locality where the PCs could run to. Okay, and as dinner concludes, he announces that the PCs have been poisoned and that there's antidotes hidden in his mansion, and that they have like 12 to 24 hours to find the antidotes or they're dead. And the rich people follow the players around, and it's a game for the wealthy, for their amusement. The mansion itself it's a funhouse adventure, reminiscent of Castle Amber, just without the castle or the amber. This is a cross section, and each sort of chapter has a full map of the level. But then it is broken into pieces, so like as you open up the book, you'll have the section that is being highlighted on those 2 pages. I really like that design. I really like that layout. It made running this easy without a lot of page flipping. I ran it at VengerCon for the very first time, and I read through the book a bunch of times, so I kind of knew what was in the book. But if you've been there, running a game live, sometimes you forget things, and I didn't need to do a lot of flipping through the book, which I really appreciated. Most of the rooms are trapped, obviously. There really isn't any monsters in the rooms or the mansion itself, but I will get to that soon. But you can put some combat encounters into the mix. Some of the rooms have puzzles. Some are red herrings. I really like that because it keeps the players sort of desperate as they're searching for these antidotes. And all the while it's being presented in this like tongue-in-cheek humor that that Kelvin's just really good at. One of my favorite puzzles. I don't want to give it away, but I did want to mention it because it is it is just golden. It is one of the best jokes I think I've had seen in any of his books, but it's How to Open the Vault, and it got a lot of laughs at the convention table. Yeah, here's a piece of the art for one of the rooms that also was one of my favorites, one of the ones I really liked. That's an antidote, and the character there is trying to get to it without having it slip out of the rope, the twine, because if it does, it'll shatter on the ground. My my players actually had a really good way to get that. It was they figured it out. It was really nice. Okay, so there are some NPCs, and here are the wealthy people that will be following the players around and getting their torture porn on. They make bets on who will survive the mansion. To be honest, didn't really know how to use these guys all that effectively, other than just sort of being like targets for when monsters do show up. But there is one that has an ulterior motive for being at the mansion, and that character will try to get the players to sort of go on this side quest, but to do so means to deviate from their main quest, which is find the antidote. When I ran it, one of the players, who's a longtime gamer, very smart, he just looked at me and said, so I go and do this thing that's going to take all this time, and all the while I'm slowly dying? No, get back in line. It was pretty funny. So there are some monsters, quote unquote, and they are essentially the crazy doctor's house staff and dogs who've been poisoned with a drug that makes them stark raving mad and violent. So when they encounter the party, they attack. That's pretty much it. You can add these weird mannequins into the mix as like a cross between undead golem things, but you don't have to. They can just be these creepy mannequins that are periodically found in the mansion. I included it just because it gave my players something to fight, and also started sucking away their time, because combat, it takes time. What's cool though, Kelvin includes a spell that you can find, so you can make the players can make their own mannequins, and it's written in the style of Vaginas Are Magic, so there is that mishap table. Okay, so here's the key to the entire module. The module includes this handy dandy chart that allows you to keep track of time, and it'll tell you when to roll for an encounter, when a player has to make a saving versus poison, when a torch needs to be relit. It's really handy, and I'm really glad he included this. In fact, there's a section in the module where Kelvin goes into like a kind of a reminder, like in Lamentations, it costs you, this many rounds or turns to perform these types of actions, and he has it all listed there, kind of as a reminder, so you can really keep strict time records. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute here, but I really like this. When I played, I printed this out and I had it in front of me, and I was just checking the boxes and telling players, okay, time to roll for this, time to roll for that, so on and so forth. Okay, so final thoughts on the module. So this is probably one of the funnier modules Kelvin's written. I was chuckling throughout the entire read through. In fact, there's this one chart, and I was at first like, why did he put this in here? And it's like I think it's like a D20 chart of like random names for the doctor. And then there's this one line, which is the punchline, and I'm like, that's why I put it in here. It was very funny. There are plenty of distractions that might get the PCs killed by virtue of the fact that time is of the essence. They can leave the grounds and explore the area around the mansion. They can help that NPC, which has got that side quest is cool, and there's some really cool encounters. Like I mentioned, my players at the VengerCon did not want to do it, but there's some cool stuff there. And while this game is a railroad of sorts, there's plenty for them to do. Like it's a sandbox. It's not like you have to do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. It's a railroad in the sense that they're poisoned and there's no save. Like you're poisoned. You're here. You're going to die in 12 to 24 hours. Yeah, that's it. Now, if you are typically playing like some other BX game, dropping this in might ruffle your players' feathers a little bit. On the one hand, it's a good way to introduce like a horrific adventure module because it's very different from the standard sword and sorcery epic fantasy they've been playing. But if you've been kind of loosey-goosey with your timekeeping, this is going to maybe rub your players the wrong way a little bit. I know, admittedly, I can be a little loosey-goosey with timekeeping as well. As a one-shot, this is awesome. I mean, it's a great setup. Like, hey, you're here. This is what we're doing, yeah, it's definitely not for everyone. But at the same token, like if you're constantly throwing the weird and the horrific at people, it kind of becomes mundane, such that maybe the mundane becomes horrific as you wake up every morning with your coffee, getting yourself ready for work again and again and again. But I think it might be worth dropping in to a standard BX game, especially considering, and I'm going to drop down to 0.5, which is unfortunately hidden by me. You can modify the difficulty. You can say that poison takes 24 hours. You could say it takes 12 hours. The antidotes might not exist, which means you're basically killing your players. The antidotes could exist, but there might be some red herrings and fake antidotes. Or they can just exist in every single room that mentions a vial. So you can make this as difficult as you want. That's something I think is useful. So you can tailor this to your table. If you got hardcore Lamentations players that know what they're getting into, you can make this incredibly difficult for them. Versus the standard sword and sorcery players who are like, we're going to play what? Ugh. So, but this is not a module where the goal is to kill everything, even though the players may want to. Like, they have to really think through all of these interesting traps and puzzles to win, and some of them can be pretty horrific. Like Kelvin mentions that he was inspired by Saw, the movie Saw, or Hostel. In fact, there's another room that I really liked. I don't want to give away too much, but the players have to do something pretty gruesome to get an antidote. Yeah. And my players, when they realize what they had to do, they're all looking at me like, oh God. Of course, one of them was like, well, I'm opening them up. So, but anyway, $64,000 question. Is this something worth picking up? Of course it is. Of course it is. It's Kelvin Green. I love it. The guy is just really good. And for $10 you get a PDF that has some good advice about timekeeping, and has like this cool funhouse game. Because of the modularity of difficulty, it kind of has some replay value. Again, you have to be careful about who you're running this with, because it could very well be a death sentence to their favorite character, a player's favorite character. So Just keep that in mind should you run it. But yeah, $10 for a PDF. It's a little on the high end for me, PDF, but it's worth it. And certainly the book itself. I mean, if you're a collector, you'll want to have this in your library. So, but anyway, that is it for me, dear viewers. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.